Okay, before we do this, I got some bad news about it. And that is, if you notice, you're asked to graph and then answer questions. If you graph it wrong, then all of your answers to these problems could be wrong. It did actually happen on a quiz in our pre-AP class where someone graphed them wrong, but the way they graphed them, they still managed to get most of these right. And I don't know how it happened, they just got like lucky. So anyway, they lost the points for the graph. They didn't lose points on these. So anyway, you have to be really careful about how you graph it. So first thing we're going to do is going to graph these two functions. F of x equals x squared minus 4 is a parabola. And it is the parent function of the parabola shifted down 4 times. And so for this one right here, it is the parent function shifted down 4 times. So basically where your vertex, if you remember the parent function for a parabola is the -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. The vertex is at 0, 0 for the parent function, so if you move it down 4 times, it's going to be at 0, -4. From here, you're going to go right 1, up 1, and left 1, up 1. That's the point, like 1, 1 on the parent function. Then you'll go over 2, up 4, and then you can actually go over 3, up 9. It's basically, you know, the parent function is from here over to. Oh, no. So the parent function is -3, 9, -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. And so we get this parabola. Okay, so that's the first part of the graph. The second graph, I'm going to label this is f of x. The second graph is an absolute value graph. So its vertex is at the point 4, 0. That's up here. So it's been shifted up 4. And it opens upside down, and the absolute value has, the lines of the absolute value have a slope of 2. So instead of going over 1, up 1 like you do for the parent function, you're going to go down 2, over 1 in both directions. You just keep going down 2, over 1 on both sides.
Is it supposed to be like a triangle?
Yeah, absolute value, like the V or the upside down V. So yeah. And we're going to label it with g of x. And once you have it graphed, you can answer the questions. So number 7 says find f of g of 1. So the first thing you're going to do is find g of 1. So yeah, you come over here to 1, and you go to the graph of g, and the y value at 1 is 2. So g of 1 is equal to 2. Then you take the answer that you got from step 1 and you plug it into the other function that we have here, which is f.
So you do f of 2. Yep, and you get 0. So your answer is 0. Any questions about that? Okay, on number 8, f minus g of negative 3 is the same thing as f of negative 3 minus g of negative 3. So you're going to come over here to where x is negative 3, and you're going to go up to the function f, and the x or the y value is what? 5. So f of negative 3 is 5. And you put the minus sign. Then you come back over here to where x is negative 3, and you go down to g of x, and you get what? Negative 2. So you plug in negative 2. And then you do the math. 5 minus negative 2 is 7. Alright, number 9 is like number 7, except for the letters are reversed. So you are going to use the f of x first. So your first step is to find f of 0. So when you come over here to 0, you're going to go down to f of x, and you get negative 4. Then you take the next letter, which is G, plug in your answer from step 1, which is negative 4, and now you're going to find G of negative 4. So remember negative 4, go down to G, and you get negative 4. And that is how you do those with a graph. Any questions?
So you always, so like if it's f of g, you always do the last one first.
Mm-hmm. Do the one that's closest to the number first. Okay, down here at the bottom you'll notice it's the exact same two equations with the exact same problems that we did above, but it's asking you to find them algebraically. You should get the same answers that we got using the graph. So let me tell you something about when you take a quiz over this. Obviously on your homework you just get a completion grade, so I'm not going to be able to look at it and tell whether or not you actually did the work. But I will tell you this, if your work does not match your answer on the algebraic part, you will not get credit. You do not get credit by trying to trick me into thinking you know what you're doing on the algebra part and then writing down the answer you got at the top. Like I can do the math. So I mean, you may know when you do them down here, if you don't get the same thing you got up on the top, because your quiz is almost exactly like this page. It has the problem just like this. You have to graph something, you have to answer questions using the graph, and then you have to do it algebraically, and they're the exact same problems, just like it is on this paper. But, so when you're done working these out, if you don't get the same answers you got up there, you're going to know that in one other place you did it wrong. You can't just write down the answer you got at the top and expect to get credit on the bottom. That's not the point. Okay, so one way I'm asking you to do it with a graph, and the other way I'm asking you to do it algebraically, and I expect to see the work for both. The work for the graph is obviously the graph. The work down here is going to be math. Okay, so I don't know. I'm just letting you know. I don't want you to think you're going to get credit just because the right answer's there, because you can have the right answer and not get any credit at all if it doesn't match the work. Okay, so in number 10 we have f of g of 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing we did above. You're going to start with the letter that's closest to the number, and you're going to find g of 1. So basically that just means you're going to replace x with 1. So I'm going to have negative, and you're using the function g of x, which is the absolute value one. So you have negative 2 times the absolute value of 1 plus 4. An absolute value sign works like a parentheses. So you have to do it first. And then once you've taken the absolute value, you can change the absolute value signs to just regular parentheses. So this next step right here, -2 times the absolute value of 1, what is the absolute value of 1? 1. So I'm just going to change that absolute value sign to a set of parentheses. And then you do -2 times 1, which is -2. And then -2 plus 4 is 2. And if you look up at the graph, you'll notice that after step 1 we got 2, which is what we got here. So far so good. You should get the same thing. It's just a different way of doing the exact same thing. One way is using a graph, one way is using the equation. Okay? So now you're going, that's step 1. Step 2 is to plug your answer from step 1 into the function f. So now you're finding f of 2. So you're going to plug that into the quadratic. So you're going to replace the x with 2. So it's 2 squared minus 4. You do exponents first. 2 squared is 4. Then you subtract. You get 0. That's the same thing we got for number 7. Anybody have any questions?
So for the algebraic part, you just plug it into the form.
And then do the math. I did get some calculators for y'all. I took some from Miss Mowry's class, and Miss Hubbard got me some for y'all to be able to do this. Since y'all can't use a graphing calculator, you know, on your quizzes and stuff, I'll give y'all those so you can do add, subtract, multiply, divide part without having used a graphing calculator. Okay. Okay. Number 11, f minus g of -3. This is f of -3 minus g of -3. And I spread it out like this because I'm going to do my work for this part here, do my work for this part here, and then I'll subtract them at the end. So you're just plugging them into their respective functions. So you're going to substitute -3 into the f of x function first. So that gives you -3 squared minus 4. -3 squared is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. Minus g of -3 is going to be -2 times the absolute value of -3 plus 4. Remember, absolute value signs are like parentheses, so you have to do that first. The absolute value of -3 is 3. So this is -2 times 3. -2 times 3 is -6. And -6 plus 4 is -2. So I have 5 minus -2, which is 5 plus 2, which is 7. Right. Questions? Alright, last one, number 12. G of f of 0. Remember, you start with the letter closest to the number, so you're going to start with function f, and you are going to substitute 0 in for x into the function f. So when you do that, what do you get? -4. I guess that's step 1. Step 2, substitute your answer from step 1 into the outside function, which is G.
Teacher, pardon the interruption. At this time, if you would please release the JV girls basketball team. Thank you.
So this is -2 times the absolute value of -4 plus 4. Do absolute value first. What is the absolute value of -4? 4. And then do multiplication. So -2 times 4 is -8. And then add. And you get -4. Okay, so you should now be able to do the last page of your assignment. It will be due, I would like for it to be due close to the beginning of class on Monday. If you have questions or something, I may give you a few minutes to ask questions before I stamp it, but I want to be able to grade it on Monday and answer any questions you have over 4.1 and 4.2, because on Tuesday you're going to have a quiz over 4.1 and 4.2. Okay? Okay.
What's 4-1? Is that like a semicircle?
Square roots. Yeah, semicircles and square roots. So your quiz will be over semicircles, square roots, and absolute value.
I think the absolute
I
value.
love how the homework one has hard ones.
Of course it does.
Of course it does, because why not?